It was a cold December evening in the small, snow-covered town of Willowbrook. Christmas lights twinkled from every house, their colorful glow reflecting off the freshly fallen snow. The scent of pine and the faint notes of holiday music filled the air, giving the town a warm and festive feeling. Families gathered together, laughter and joy echoing from their homes. But in one small, dimly lit house at the end of Elm Street, an elderly woman named Margaret Thompson sat alone by her window, watching the world go by. Margaret, now 78, was a widow. Her husband had passed away nearly a decade ago, and her only son had moved to a different state for work, rarely visiting. Margaret had once been a beloved member of the community, known for her kindness and generosity, but over the years, she had withdrawn from her neighbors and become somewhat of a recluse. Her house, once lively and welcoming, now stood quiet and forlorn. Margaret felt the weight of her solitude acutely during the holidays. She used to love Christmas, decorating her home with garlands, baking cookies for the neighborhood children, and hosting dinners. But as her loved ones drifted away, the magic of the season faded. Now, Christmas was just another day, a reminder of the people she had lost and the memories she could never relive. As Margaret sat in her armchair, lost in thought, a soft knock at the door startled her. She glanced at the clock. It was nearly 8 p.m. She wasn't expecting anyone, and she couldn't think of who would visit on Christmas Eve. Curious but cautious, she got up, pulling her worn sweater tighter around her shoulders, and made her way to the door. When she opened it, she found herself face to face with a little girl, no older than 8. The girl was bundled up in a red coat, her cheeks pink from the cold, and she clutched a small tattered teddy bear in one hand. Her big brown eyes looked up at Margaret with a mixture of hope and worry. "Hello," the girl said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Margaret blinked, taken aback. "Hello, dear. What are you doing out here? It's awfully cold, and you should be home with your family." The girl shifted uncomfortably, glancing down at her feet. "My name is Lily," she said. I was hoping you could help me." Margaret's heart softened at the sight of the little girl standing alone in the cold. Despite her reclusive nature, she couldn't turn away a child in need. She stepped aside, gesturing for Lily to come inside. "Of course, dear. Come in, you must be freezing." Lily stepped into the house, her small frame shivering. Margaret guided her to the living room, where a small fire crackled in the fireplace. She handed Lily a warm blanket and a mug of hot cocoa, watching as the girl wrapped herself up and sipped the drink, her eyes darting around the room. "Now, what brings you here, Lily?" Margaret asked gently, sitting down across from her. "Is everything all right?" Lily hesitated, clutching her teddy bear tighter. She looked down at her lap, her voice barely audible. I saw your belly." Margaret's hand instinctively went to her stomach, a puzzled expression on her face. "My belly?" The little girl nodded, her gaze still lowered. "Yes, I thought maybe you had a baby. I thought maybe you could help me." Margaret's confusion deepened. She looked down at her own body, suddenly self-conscious of her slightly rounded belly, softened by age and years without much activity. She had never thought much about it, but Lily's words struck her. "A baby?" she repeated, a hint of sadness in her voice. "No, sweetheart, I don't have a baby. I'm too old for that. Why would you think I could help you with a baby?" Lily looked up, her eyes glistening with tears. "Because my mommy is going to have a baby. She told me Santa would bring me a baby sister this Christmas, but she got really sick, and now she's in the hospital. She said the baby might not come." Margaret's heart clenched at the girl's words. She felt a wave of empathy and sorrow wash over her, understanding the pain and confusion Lily must be feeling. She reached out, placing a comforting hand on the girl's shoulder. "Oh, Lily," she whispered, her voice filled with compassion. "I'm so sorry to hear that. Your mommy must love you very much to promise you a sister for Christmas." Lily nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "She does, but the doctor said she might not make it. I I don't want to be alone. I thought maybe you could help me." Margaret's eyes filled with tears as she listened to the little girl's plea. In that moment, she felt a surge of purpose, a reminder of the kindness she used to share with others. She couldn't change Lily's situation, but she could offer comfort, a warm home, and perhaps a little bit of hope. Margaret pulled Lily into a gentle embrace, allowing the girl to cry softly on her shoulder. They sat like that for a while, the quiet warmth of the room enveloping them. Margaret knew she couldn't send Lily back out into the night, not when she was so clearly in need of love and support. "Lily, would you like to stay here tonight?" Margaret asked softly. "You don't have to be alone." Lily looked up, her eyes wide with gratitude. "Really? I can stay?" "Of course," Margaret replied, her heart aching with empathy. "I'd love to have you here." They spent the evening together, decorating the small, dusty Christmas tree Margaret had reluctantly set up by herself earlier that week. She watched as Lily's face lit up, her worries momentarily forgotten as she hung ornaments and helped Margaret arrange a few presents she had bought for herself. They laughed, shared stories, and even sang a few Christmas carols, filling the old house with a joy it hadn't seen in years. As they prepared for bed, Margaret noticed the light returning to Lily's eyes. She knew the little girl's heart was heavy, but for one night, she had been able to bring a bit of peace to her. The next morning, Margaret was awakened by the sound of soft giggles. She opened her eyes to find Lily sitting by the window, watching the snow fall outside. For a moment, Margaret felt a warmth in her heart that she hadn't felt in years. This little girl, with her innocence and resilience, had brought light back into her life. "Merry Christmas, Lily," Margaret said, smiling as she sat up. "Merry Christmas, Miss Margaret," Lily replied, her face glowing with excitement. They spent the morning together, sharing a simple breakfast and unwrapping the few gifts Margaret had placed under the tree. Though the presents were modest, knitted scarves, handmade ornaments, and small trinkets, they brought smiles to both their faces. For the first time in years, Margaret felt the magic of Christmas again. But as the day wore on, Margaret could see the worry creeping back into Lily's expression. She knew the girl was thinking about her mother, wondering if she was okay. Margaret gently took Lily's hand and gave it a reassuring squeeze. "Would you like to visit your mommy at the hospital?" she asked softly. Lily's face brightened, her eyes filling with hope. "Yes, please, can we go?" Without hesitation, Margaret bundled up, grabbed her coat, and took Lily by the hand. Together they made their way through the snow-covered streets to the hospital, Margaret's heart filled with a newfound sense of purpose. When they arrived at the hospital, Margaret explained the situation to the nurses, who led them to Lily's mother's room. As they entered, Margaret saw a frail young woman lying in the bed, her face pale but peaceful. She looked up as they entered, her eyes filling with tears as she saw her daughter. "Mommy," Lily cried, running to her mother's side and taking her hand. "Lily, sweetheart," her mother whispered, her voice weak but filled with love. "You found a friend?" Lily nodded, glancing back at Margaret with a smile. "Yes, Mommy. Miss Margaret took care of me. She made Christmas special." Margaret felt a lump in her throat as she watched the tender reunion between mother and daughter. She knew she couldn't replace Lily's family, but she was grateful to have been there for her when she needed it most. As they talked, Margaret learned that Lily's mother, Sarah, had been struggling not only with her pregnancy, but also with financial troubles. She was a single mother, doing her best to provide for her daughter, but the strain of her situation had taken a toll on her health. Margaret listened intently, feeling a deep connection to this young woman who reminded her so much of herself years ago. Over the next few days, Margaret visited the hospital regularly, bringing food and small gifts for Lily and her mother. She found herself drawn to them, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and joy. In Sarah, she saw a reflection of her own struggles, and in Lily, she saw the hope and resilience that had kept her going all those years. As Christmas turned into New Year's, Margaret made a decision that would change all of their lives. She approached Sarah one evening, taking her hand in a gentle but firm grip. "Sarah," she began, her voice filled with warmth and determination, "I know you're going through a difficult time, and I want you to know that you're not alone. If you'll let me, I'd like to help. I have a spare room at my house, and there's plenty of space for both you and Lily. You don't have to face this alone." Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she looked up at Margaret, a mixture of gratitude and relief washing over her. Are you sure? I don't want to be a burden." Margaret shook her head, a soft smile on her lips. "You're not a burden. You and Lily have brought more joy into my life than I've felt in years. Let's help each other." With Margaret's help, Sarah and Lily moved into the small house on Elm Street. Margaret embraced her role as their caretaker and friend, finding purpose in her days and warmth in her home once more. She took care of Lily while Sarah focused on her health, and together, they created a life filled with laughter, support, and love. The people of Willowbrook noticed the change in Margaret. The once reclusive woman had blossomed, opening her heart and home to a new family. She became an active part of the community again, attending events, volunteering at the local center, and sharing her story of resilience and kindness. Over time, Sarah's health improved, and she was able to welcome her new baby, a healthy little girl named Hope. Margaret became a grandmother figure to the children, her heart swelling with pride and joy every time she held Hope in her arms. The years passed, and Margaret, Sarah, Lily, and Hope became a beloved family unit in Willowbrook. Every Christmas, they would gather around the small tree in Margaret's living room, decorating it with handmade ornaments and sharing stories of the Christmas that had brought them together. Margaret never forgot that cold December night when a little girl had knocked on her door, bringing warmth and purpose back into her life. She had been given a second chance at happiness, and she cherished every moment of it. Through her kindness and generosity, Margaret had found a family, proving that love and compassion could create miracles even in the most unexpected places. And every Christmas, as they celebrated together, Margaret would look around at her family with a heart full of gratitude, knowing that the true spirit of Christmas was not in the gifts or decorations, but in the love they shared. Margaret's story is a testament to the power of kindness, resilience, and the strength found in human connection. Through her selfless act of opening her home, she discovered the true meaning of family, transforming her life and the lives of those around her. And in the town of Willowbrook, her story became a cherished reminder that love, generosity, and compassion could light up even the coldest winter nights.